The wrench slipped from Harry Crowell's fingers and clattered against the concrete floor of the auto shop. He straightened up from under the hood of the Civic he'd been working on, wiping grease from his hands with a red cloth that had seen better days. The clock on the wall read 3:47 p.m. He was done early today. The last two appointments had canceled, and the afternoon stretched ahead with rare possibility. Home early. He could surprise Lila, maybe take her to the park before dinner. The thought of his daughter's face lighting up when he walked through the door made him smile as he grabbed his keys from the pegboard. The drive home took 12 minutes through the quiet streets of Millbrook, Oregon. The town sat nestled against the edge of Crater Lake, small enough that everyone knew everyone, the kind of place where people still waved at passing cars. Harry had chosen it deliberately 3 years ago when he'd left the army. Peaceful, safe, good place to raise a kid. He pulled into the driveway of the modest two-story house with blue siding and white trim. Nina's car sat in its usual spot. The lawn needed mowing. He'd get to it this weekend. He noticed the front curtains were drawn, which was odd for this time of day. Nina usually kept them open to let the light in. Harry unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house felt wrong immediately. Too quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of an empty home, but something else. Something that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up in a way he hadn't felt since Kandahar. "Nina," he called out, setting his keys on the small table by the door. "Lila." No answer. Then he heard it. A wet, choking sound from deeper in the house. Desperate. Wrong. Harry's body moved before his mind caught up. He dropped his jacket and sprinted through the entryway, his boots pounding against the hardwood floor. The sound was coming from the living room. He rounded the corner, and the world tilted sideways. Lila was on the carpet, her small body convulsing. Her face had gone purple-red, eyes bulging with terror as she clawed at her throat. Foam bubbled at the corners of her mouth. The choking sounds were getting weaker, more desperate, like her body was running out of air and time all at once. Nina stood 5 feet away, her arms crossed over her chest, watching. Just watching. Her expression was blank, almost bored, like she was observing paint dry rather than a child suffocating. "Nina, what the hell?" Harry lunged forward, dropping to his knees beside his daughter. "She just tripped," Nina said. Her voice was flat, monotone. "Stop panicking." Harry didn't respond. He scooped Lila into his arms. God, she was so light, so small, and her tiny fingers immediately clutched at his shirt with desperate strength. Her eyes locked onto his, wide and terrified and begging. The choking sounds continued, wet and horrible. He ran. No shoes for her. No jacket. No time. He carried her straight out the front door, leaving it hanging open behind him. His truck was unlocked. He yanked the driver's door open and slid in with Lila cradled against his chest, fumbling for his keys with shaking hands. "Stay with me, baby girl," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Stay with Daddy. We're going to the hospital. You're going to be okay." Lila's fingers dug into his shirt. Each breath she took sounded like glass grinding against metal. Harry turned the ignition and peeled out of the driveway. The speed limit was 35 through residential streets. He hit 60. St. Anne's Hospital was across town, a 15-minute drive normally. He'd make an 8. Red light at Maple and 5th. He barely slowed, checking both ways before blowing through it. A car honked. He didn't care. Lila's breathing was getting shallower, more labored. Her grip on his shirt was weakening. "No, no, no. Come on, sweetheart. Stay with me." His voice cracked. "Breathe, Lila. Just breathe." Another red light. He ran it. A truck nearly T-boned him, but swerved at the last second, horn blaring. Harry's heart hammered in his chest, but he didn't slow down. 6 more blocks. Lila made a small whimpering sound that broke something inside him. "Almost there, baby. Almost there." St. Anne's emergency entrance appeared ahead. Harry jerked the wheel hard, jumping the curb and screeching to a stop directly in front of the automatic doors. He left the truck running, door open, and sprinted inside with Lila in his arms. "Help! I need help." His voice boomed through the waiting area, making heads snap up. "My daughter can't breathe." A nurse at the front desk, older, with kind eyes, took one look at Lila and hit a button. Code blue, pediatric respiratory distress. Everything happened fast after that. A swarm of blue scrubs descended. Someone tried to take Lila from his arms, but Harry's muscles locked up. He couldn't let go. Couldn't. Sir, we need to take her. Sir, please. A young doctor, dark hair pulled back, her eyes urgent but gentle. We're going to help her, but you have to let us. Harry's arms finally loosened. They took Lila through a set of double doors that swung shut with a soft whoosh, leaving him standing alone in the hallway, his empty arms still extended, his shirt damp with his daughter's saliva and foam. His legs gave out. He slumped against the wall and slid down to the floor, his breath coming in short gasps. His hands were shaking. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed faintly, mixing with the distant sound of medical equipment beeping, voices calling out instructions he couldn't quite hear. Time moved strangely. Could have been 2 minutes or 20. A hand touched his shoulder. He looked up to find a police officer standing over him. Sir, are you the father? Harry nodded, trying to find his voice. Harry Crowell. That's my daughter, Lila. She's 3. She couldn't breathe. I don't know what happened. The hospital called us for any case involving a child. Standard protocol. Can you tell me what you saw when you got home? Harry described it. Coming home early, the choking sounds, finding Lila on the floor. The officer took notes, his expression neutral but watchful. And where's the mother? I guess. I didn't think. I just ran. The officer nodded. We'll send someone to check on her, make sure she's okay. The automatic doors slid open with a mechanical whisper. Harry looked up and saw Nina walking in, her purse over her shoulder, her expression perfectly composed. She wore jeans and a cream sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She looked like any other concerned mother entering an ER. But when her eyes met Harry's, they were empty. Completely empty. How is she? Nina asked, her voice carrying just the right amount of worry. Not too much, not too little. Perfectly calibrated. Harry stared at her. The officer was watching Nina now, too. They took her back, Harry said slowly. She was choking. I found her choking on the living room floor, and you were just standing there. I told you she tripped. She must have swallowed something. I was trying to figure out what to do when you came in and started yelling. Nina turned to the officer. He tends to overreact. Military background. PTSD, I think, though he won't get it checked. The words landed like a slap. Harry's jaw clenched. The officer's eyes flicked between them, assessing. Before anyone could respond, a nurse emerged from the double doors, middle-aged, with short gray hair and tired eyes. She held a clipboard and wore a name tag that read Caroline Hart, RN. Family of Lila Crowell? Harry pushed himself to his feet. That's us. Is she? Nurse Caroline looked at Harry first. Then her gaze shifted to Nina. The clipboard slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. Her face went bone white. Her hand shot out to grip the wall for support. Oh my God, she whispered. Harry stepped forward. What? What's wrong? But Caroline wasn't looking at him. She was staring at Nina with an expression Harry couldn't quite read. Fear, yes, but also recognition, and something that looked like horror. Nina's face remained perfectly calm, but something shifted in her eyes. A flash of acknowledgement, maybe, or warning. Are you all right? The officer asked Caroline. Caroline blinked rapidly, tearing her gaze away from Nina. She bent down and picked up her clipboard with shaking hands. Yes. Sorry. Low blood sugar. I'm fine. But her voice trembled, and Harry noticed she was keeping distance between herself and Nina, positioning her body closer to him instead. Lila's stable, Caroline said, focusing entirely on Harry now. She's breathing on her own. The doctor is running some tests to determine what caused the respiratory distress. Can I see her? In a few minutes. They're still getting her settled. Caroline paused, then added quietly, she's going to be okay. Relief flooded through Harry's chest, so intense it almost hurt. Thank you. Thank you so much. Caroline nodded, but didn't smile. She glanced at Nina again, quick, nervous, then walked away quickly, her shoes squeaking against the linoleum floor. The officer asked a few more questions, took down their information, then left. Nina sat down in one of the waiting room chairs and pulled out her phone, scrolling through it with casual disinterest. Harry couldn't sit. He paced the length of the hallway, his mind replaying the scene over and over. The way Lila had been gasping. The way Nina had just stood there, arms crossed, watching. She just tripped. Who says that? What mother says that when her child is dying? 20 minutes later, a doctor emerged. Young, Asian features, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Dr. Chun, according to his badge. He looked exhausted. Mr. and Mrs. Crowell? You can see Lila now. She's awake and asking for you. Harry didn't wait. He followed the doctor through the double doors, Nina trailing behind. They wound through a maze of curtained areas until they reached a small room where Lila lay in a bed that looked far too big for her tiny body. And 4 line ran in her small arm. Her face was still pale, but the purple-red color had faded. Daddy, her voice came out raspy, painful. Harry moved to her bedside and took her hand, being careful of the 4. Hey, sweetheart, you're okay now. You're okay. Lila's eyes welled up with tears. It hurts. I know, baby. I know. Harry smoothed her hair back from her forehead. It was damp with sweat. Dr. Chun stood at the foot of the bed, his expression serious. Lila inhaled cleaning solution. Based on the chemical burns in her throat and the residue we found, it appears to be ammonia-based, likely a glass cleaner or similar product. Harry's head snapped up. What? How would she? Kids are curious, the doctor said. They get into things. Do you keep cleaning supplies somewhere accessible? No. Everything's in the cabinet above the refrigerator. She can't reach that high. She's 3. Dr. Chen glanced at Nina, who was standing near the door, her arms crossed. Mom? Any ideas how she might have gotten hold of it? She's a climber, Nina said smoothly. Always trying to reach things she shouldn't. I've told her 100 times to stop, but 3-year-olds don't listen. She moved closer to the bed and looked down at Lila with a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. You scared us, honey. You need to be more careful. Lila's hand tightened in Harry's. He felt it, the small, involuntary flinch. His daughter, normally so talkative and bright, said nothing. Just pressed herself closer to Harry. We're going to keep her overnight for observation, Dr. Chin continued. The good news is her oxygen levels are improving and there's no permanent damage to her airway. But we want to monitor her closely. Whatever you need to do, Harry said. I'm staying with her. Of course. We'll get a cot brought in. The doctor made some notes on his tablet. A nurse will be in shortly to check on her. After the doctor left, Nina stood by the bed for another minute, looking at Lila with that same detached expression. I should go home, make sure everything's locked up. You left the front door open. Harry had forgotten about that. Yeah, okay. I'll come back tomorrow morning. Nina leaned down as if to kiss Lila's forehead, but the little girl turned her face away, burying it against Harry's arm. Nina straightened up, her expression unchanged. Feel better, sweetie. She left without another word. Harry sat in the chair next to Lila's bed, still holding her hand. The room was quiet except for the steady beep of the heart monitor and the occasional voice from the hallway. Lila's eyes were closed, but he could tell she wasn't sleeping. Her breathing was too quick, too shallow. Lila, he said softly, can you tell Daddy what happened? Before you got hurt. Her eyes opened, and he saw fear there. Real fear. She was 3 years old and shouldn't know that kind of fear. Mama said, Lila's voice was barely a whisper, raspy and painful. Mama said to drink the blue water. Said it was juice. Harry felt something cold settle in his stomach. What blue water, baby? From the bottle. The bottle with the picture. Lila's eyes filled with tears again. It wasn't juice, Daddy. It hurt. It hurts so bad. His hand trembled as he stroked her hair. It's okay. You're safe now. Daddy's got you. But his mind was racing. Nina had given her the cleaning solution. Told her it was juice. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a curious child getting into something she shouldn't. This was deliberate. The door opened and Nurse Caroline stepped in, carrying fresh blankets. She stopped when she saw Harry's face. Everything all right? Harry looked at her, really looked at her. She'd gone white as a ghost when she saw Nina. She dropped her clipboard. She knew something. Can I ask you something? Harry kept his voice low. Lila had finally fallen asleep, her small chest rising and falling in rhythm with the monitors. Caroline set the blankets down and moved closer. Of course. When you saw my wife earlier, you recognized her. It wasn't a question. Caroline's face confirmed it immediately. She glanced at the door, then back at Harry, clearly struggling with something. I'm not sure I should. Please. Harry's voice cracked. Something's wrong. I need to know. Caroline was quiet for a long moment, her eyes moving between Harry and the sleeping child. Finally, she pulled a pen from her pocket and scribbled something on a scrap of paper from her clipboard. Call me when she's asleep, Caroline whispered, pressing the paper into his hand. It's about your wife. She left before Harry could respond. He unfolded the paper. A phone number and a name, Caroline Hart. Beneath it, in shaky handwriting, I knew her in Seattle. She's dangerous. Harry read it 3 times, the words blurring slightly in his vision. Seattle. That's where Nina had lived before they met. She'd been a foster parent there, she'd told him. Took care of troubled kids. It was part of what had drawn him to her initially, her compassion, her dedication to helping children. But the woman he'd seen today showed no compassion, no emotion at all. He looked at his daughter, peaceful now in sleep, and made a decision. He pulled out his phone and saved Caroline's number. Then he sat back in the uncomfortable hospital chair and watched over Lila through the night, his mind turning over questions he was afraid to answer. The fluorescent lights never turned off completely, just dimmed to a softer glow. Outside the window, Millbrook settled into darkness, its streets quiet and safe. But Harry didn't feel safe anymore. The next morning arrived gray and overcast, typical Oregon weather that matched Harry's mood perfectly. Lila had slept fitfully through the night, whimpering occasionally, and each sound had sent Harry's protective instincts into overdrive. Now, at 6:47 a.m., she was finally sleeping deeply, her small chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm that the heart monitor echoed with its persistent beeps. Harry stepped out into the hallway, his joints stiff from the inadequate cot. His phone felt heavy in his pocket. He'd been staring at Caroline's number since midnight, wanting to call, but not wanting to leave Lila alone. Now, with nurses moving through their morning rounds and natural light beginning to filter through the windows, he couldn't wait any longer. He found a quiet alcove near the vending machines and dialed. Caroline answered on the second ring, her voice alert despite the early hour. This is Harry Crowell. From last night. Lila's father. I've been expecting your call. A pause. Is she all right? She's sleeping. They're discharging her this afternoon. Harry kept his voice low, watching the hallway. You said you knew Nina. From Seattle. Not here. Caroline's words came quickly. Can you meet me? There's a diner off Highway 97, about 3 miles south of the hospital. Rosie's Place. I get off shift at 8. I can't leave my daughter. Your wife will be there soon, won't she? To pick up Lila? Harry's jaw clenched. Yeah, she texted earlier. Said she'd be here by 9. Then meet me at 8:30. You'll want to hear this before she arrives. Caroline's voice dropped lower. Mr. Crowell, I need you to understand something. I'm breaking protocol by talking to you. I could lose my job, but when I saw her yesterday, standing in that ER, I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about that little girl in Seattle, the one who didn't make it. The cold feeling in Harry's stomach spread to his chest. What little girl? 8:30. Rosie's Place. Come alone. The line went dead. Harry stood there for a moment, staring at his phone. Then he walked back to Lila's room. Nina hadn't arrived yet. He had time. At 8:15, a different nurse came in to check Lila's vitals. The little girl was awake now, watching cartoons on the television mounted to the wall. Her voice was still hoarse, but she'd managed to eat some applesauce for breakfast. I have to run out for a bit, Harry told her, crouching beside the bed. Just for a little while. Mommy will be here soon. Lila's hand immediately clutched his. Don't go. I have to, sweetheart. But I'll be back before you know it. He kissed her forehead. The nurse is right outside, okay? You're safe. The drive to Rosie's Place took 8 minutes. The diner was exactly the kind of establishment you'd expect on a lonely highway. Vinyl booths with duct-tape seats, a counter with spinning stools, and the smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease. 2 truckers sat at the counter. A family with young kids occupied one booth. Caroline was in the back corner, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, a cup of coffee cooling in front of her. Harry slid into the booth across from her. Up close, in natural light, he could see the exhaustion etched into her features. Dark circles under her eyes. Lines of stress around her mouth. "Thank you for coming," she said. A waitress appeared with coffee for Harry. He waved away the menu. "Just coffee, thanks." When they were alone again, Caroline wrapped both hands around her mug but didn't drink. She stared into the dark liquid as if gathering courage from its depths. "I work pediatric emergency at Harborview Medical Center in Seattle," she began. "That's where I met your wife. 6 years ago. She was a foster mother, licensed through the state. Had 3 kids in her care at the time." Harry said nothing, just listened. "They came in regularly. Burns, bruises. One boy had a fractured arm. Another had severe malnutrition. Every time, your wife had an explanation." He touched the stove. She fell down the stairs. "He's a picky eater. Always calm. Always reasonable. Always detached." Caroline finally looked up, meeting Harry's eyes. "We reported it. Multiple times. But the investigations went nowhere. She was good at making things look like accidents. Good at documentation. She'd have photos showing unsafe conditions in the home, dangerous objects within reach. She'd claim the kids were out of control, that she was doing her best. What happened?" Harry's voice was rough. The youngest was a girl, 5 years old, named Emma. Caroline's eyes went distant. "She came in one night, unresponsive. Couldn't breathe. We worked on her for 40 minutes, but..." She shook her head. Cause of death was ruled as accidental ingestion of household chemicals. The investigation concluded Emma had gotten into the cleaning supplies and drank drain cleaner before your wife realized what was happening. Harry's blood turned to ice. "The thing is," Caroline continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "the chemical burns in Emma's throat matched what we'd seen in 2 other foster children in your wife's care. Not identical, but similar. Like someone was experimenting, testing different substances to see what would happen." Jesus Christ. "We try to push for a deeper investigation. Some of us nurses, a couple of doctors. But your wife had friends in the system. Her social worker backed her completely. Said she was devastated that she'd been a model foster parent. The case was closed. Your wife moved out of state a month later. We never saw her again." Caroline reached across the table and gripped Harry's hand. "Until yesterday, when I saw her standing there, watching your daughter struggle to breathe with that same blank expression. Mr. Crowell, you need to protect that little girl." "Because I couldn't protect Emma." Harry pulled his hand back, needing both to grip the edge of the table to steady himself. "Lila told me Nina gave her the cleaning solution. Told her it was juice." Caroline closed her eyes. "God, I need proof. I need evidence. If I just accuse her, she'll flip it on you," Caroline finished. "She'll make you look unstable, controlling. She's done it before. After Emma died, the father of one of the other foster kids tried to file charges. She accused him of harassment, got a restraining order, painted him as an unhinged man targeting a grieving woman. It worked." Harry thought of Nina's comment yesterday. PTSD, military background. She'd already started laying groundwork to discredit him. "What do I do?" Caroline leaned forward. "Document everything. Get cameras if you can. Record her when she doesn't know. And if anything else happens, anything, you call the police and you call me. I'll testify to what I saw in Seattle. I'll put my nursing license on the line if it means stopping her. Why didn't you come forward before? When Emma died, I tried. We all did. But no one would listen." Caroline's voice broke slightly. "I've carried that guilt for 6 years. I won't carry it for another child." Harry finished his coffee in one burning gulp. "I need to get back. One more thing." Caroline pulled a business card from her pocket, official hospital letterhead with her contact information. "Keep this. And Mr. Crowell, don't let her know you suspect anything. People like her, when they feel cornered, they escalate." Harry took the card and stood. The diner felt too warm, too bright. He needed air. Outside, the morning had turned drizzly, that fine mist that passes for rain in Oregon. Harry sat in his truck for several minutes, gripping the steering wheel, forcing himself to think clearly. He'd seen plenty of bad situations in the Army. had been trained to stay calm under pressure, to make rational decisions when everything was chaos. This was different. This was his daughter. He started the truck and drove back to St. Anne's. When he walked into Lila's room, Nina was there, sitting in the chair he'd occupied all night. She looked up as he entered, her expression mildly curious. "Where did you go?" "Coffee run. Hospital coffee is terrible." Harry moved to Lila's bedside. His daughter was awake, but quiet, not meeting Nina's eyes. "How you doing, sweetheart?" "My throat hurts." "I know. The doctor said that's normal. It'll get better in a few days." Nina stood, smoothing her jeans. "The nurse said she can go home. They're just waiting on the discharge paperwork." "Home? With Nina?" The thought made Harry's stomach twist. "Actually," he said carefully, "I was thinking maybe I should take some time off work. Stay home with Lila for a few days while she recovers." Nina's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's not necessary. I can take care of her." "I know you can, but I want to." Harry kept his voice casual. "Easy. I've got vacation days saved up. Might as well use them." For a moment, Nina's mask slipped. Harry saw something flash in her eyes. Anger, maybe, or calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by a smile that looked almost genuine. "That's sweet. But you know how restless you get staying home. And the shop needs you. The shop will survive. My daughter comes first." The smile faded. Nina stared at him for a long moment, and Harry stared back, refusing to look away. The hospital room felt suddenly smaller, the air thicker. "Daddy?" Lila's small voice broke the tension. "Can we go home now?" Harry forced a smile. "Soon, baby girl. Real soon." A nurse arrived with discharge papers and instructions. Lots of fluids, soft foods, no strenuous activity. They should watch for signs of infection or difficulty breathing and come back immediately if either developed. Harry memorized every word while Nina scrolled through her phone board. The drive home was silent, except for the radio playing softly and Lila's occasional cough from the back seat. Harry had insisted on driving them all back together, keeping Lila in his sight. Nina sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, her jaw set in a way that suggested she was annoyed but trying not to show it. When they pulled into the driveway, Harry noticed the front door was closed and locked. Someone, probably the police officer from yesterday, had secured the house. Inside, everything looked normal, clean, organized. The living room where he'd found Lila showed no signs of what had happened. The carpet was vacuumed, the throw pillows arranged neatly on the couch. "Why don't you rest, sweetie?" Nina said to Lila. "Go upstairs and lie down. I want to stay with Daddy. Your father has things to do. You need rest." "Actually," Harry interjected, "I'll get her settled. You've been at the hospital all morning. Why don't you relax?" Another flash in Nina's eyes, but she nodded. "Fine, I'll start dinner." Harry carried Lila upstairs to her room, painted pale purple with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. He tucked her into bed and sat beside her, reading from one of her favorite books until her eyes grew heavy. When her breathing deepened into sleep, he pulled out his phone and searched for hidden camera systems. Over the next 3 days, Harry became a man with a purpose. He went to Best Buy in the next town over, paying cash for a set of small wireless cameras. He installed them himself, placing them strategically throughout the house: Lila's room, the living room, the kitchen, the hallway. He hid them in smoke detectors, behind picture frames, inside air vents. Anywhere Nina wouldn't think to look. He told her the shop was slow, that Tom, his assistant manager, could handle things for the week. It wasn't entirely a lie, but the truth was Harry couldn't leave Lila alone with Nina. Not after what Caroline had told him. Not after what Lila had said. Nina seemed to sense something had shifted, but she couldn't quite pin it down. She'd make comments, little jabs about him being overprotective, about smothering Lila, about not trusting her to parent her own daughter. Harry absorbed them all without reaction, his face a mask of calm he'd perfected during deployments. But he watched. He watched everything. He noticed how Nina's voice would change when she thought he wasn't listening. How it would go cold, flat. How she'd speak to Lila in whispers just low enough that Harry couldn't make out the words. But he could see his daughter's reaction, the flinching, the way Lila would go very still and quiet. On the fourth night home, Lila had a nightmare. Harry heard her crying at 2:17 a.m. and was out of bed immediately, padding down the hallway in his bare feet. But when he reached her door, he stopped. Nina was already there. Harry stood in the darkness of the hallway, just out of sight, and listened. The cameras in Lila's room would be recording, but he needed to hear this for himself. "Stop crying." Nina's voice was soft, almost gentle, but there was something underneath it that made Harry's skin crawl. "Stop making those noises. You're fine." Lila's sobs got louder, the way a child will when they're scared and seeking comfort. "I said stop." Nina's tone sharpened. "Do you want Daddy to think you're bad? Do you want him to know what a difficult child you are?" "I want Daddy." Lila's voice was muffled, probably pressed into her pillow. "Your father is sleeping. He needs his rest. He works very hard, and you're keeping him up with all this noise." A pause. "If you can't be quiet, I'll have to make you quiet." Harry's hands clenched into fists. Every muscle in his body coiled, ready to burst into that room. But Caroline's words echoed in his head. "Don't let her know you suspect anything." He forced himself to turn around and walk back to his bedroom. It took every ounce of self-control he possessed. He climbed into bed, his heart pounding, and waited. 10 minutes later, Nina returned, sliding under the covers without a word. Harry lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, and counted his breaths to keep from doing something he'd regret. In the morning, he'd check the cameras. He'd have proof. When Nina's breathing deepened into sleep, Harry got up and went to Lila's room. His daughter was awake, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars with wide eyes. "Hey, baby girl," he whispered, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Bad dream." Lila nodded, then threw her arms around his neck. Harry held her close, feeling her small body trembling. "You're okay. Daddy's here. I've got you. Don't leave me alone with Mama," Lila whispered against his shoulder. "Please don't leave me alone." "I won't." Harry pulled back just enough to look in her eyes. "I promise, sweetheart. I will never let anything bad happen to you." He stayed with her until she fell back asleep, then returned to his room and set an alarm for 5 a.m. When it went off, quiet vibration he'd feel, but Nina wouldn't hear. He slipped into the garage, pulled up the camera app on his phone, and watched. The footage from last night was crystal clear, the night vision rendering everything in shades of green and black. He watched Nina enter Lila's room, watched her stand over the bed, arms crossed, heard every word she'd said, even clearer than when he'd been in the hallway. But it was what she did next that made his blood freeze. Nina leaned down, and for a moment Harry thought she was going to comfort Lila. Instead, her hand moved to cover the child's mouth. Gently at first, then firmer as Lila tried to cry out. "Hush," Nina whispered. "You need to learn to be quiet. Good children are quiet. Good children don't make Daddy worry." She held her hand there for 15 seconds. 20, 30. Long enough that Lila started thrashing, her small hands pushing at Nina's arm. Then Nina released her, stepped back, and smoothed her nightgown. "There. That's better. Now you know how to be quiet, don't you?" Lila gasped for air, crying silently now, soundless tears streaming down her face as her chest heaved. "Good girl," Nina said, and left the room. Harry watched the video 3 times, his hands shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. He created multiple copies, uploaded it to the cloud, emailed it to himself, saved it to a USB drive he kept in his wallet. Then he sat in the cold garage and let himself feel the rage that had been building for days. He wanted to destroy her, wanted to march into the house, and no, he forced the thoughts away. Violence wouldn't help Lila. It would only make him look exactly like the unstable veteran Nina was setting him up to be. He needed to be smarter, needed to do this right. Harry pulled out his phone and called Caroline. It rang 4 times before her sleepy voice answered. "Hello, it's Harry Crowell. I need to talk to you, and I need to talk to the police." "What happened?" "I have proof. Video proof of Nina hurting Lila." A sharp intake of breath. "Where are you?" "Home. In my garage. Nina's still asleep." Okay. Listen to me carefully. Don't confront her. Don't do anything that could be seen as threatening. Can you get Lila out of the house?" Harry thought for a moment. "Yeah, I can tell Nina I'm taking her to follow-up appointment at the hospital. Buy us a few hours." "Do that." Meet me at the hospital. I'll call a friend of mine, Detective Hanley with Millbrook PD. He's good people, and he'll take this seriously. Thank you. Harry. Caroline's voice softened. You're doing the right thing. This is how we protect her. After they hung up, Harry sat for another minute, letting his breathing settle, letting the rage compress down into something cold and focused. Then he went inside. Nina was making breakfast when he came in, humming softly to herself. She looked domestic, normal, like any other mother starting her day. Morning, she said without turning around. Pancakes okay? Actually, I need to take Lila back to the hospital. Follow-up appointment with the doctor, just to make sure her throat's healing properly. Nina turned, spatula in hand. They didn't mention that at discharge. I called yesterday. Wanted to be cautious. Her eyes searched his face, looking for any sign of deception. Harry kept his expression neutral, easy. After a moment, she turned back to the stove. Fine, take her. I have errands anyway. Harry went upstairs and gently woke Lila. Hey, sweetheart, we're gonna go see the nice doctor again, okay? Just to make sure you're feeling better. Is Mama coming? No, just us. Relief flooded across Lila's face. Harry helped her get dressed, then carried her downstairs. Nina was still in the kitchen, her back to them as she flipped pancakes. We'll be back in a couple hours, Harry called out. Drive safe. Once they were in the truck, Lila buckled in her car seat. Harry pulled out of the driveway and didn't look back. In his rearview mirror, he could see the house growing smaller. His home, the place that was supposed to be safe. He wouldn't let Lila go back there. Not until Nina was gone. St. Anne's Hospital was quieter during mid-morning hours. Harry carried Lila through the main entrance, her small arms wrapped around his neck, her face buried against his shoulder. Caroline was waiting in the lobby, wearing her scrubs and a worried expression. Standing beside her was a man in his 50s, gray hair, solid build, tired eyes that had seen too much. He wore plain clothes, but his posture screamed law enforcement. Harry Crowell? The man extended his hand. Detective Roy Hanley, Millbrook PD. Caroline tells me you have some concerns about your wife. Harry shook his hand, then set Lila down gently. Can she go somewhere? I don't want her hearing this. Caroline nodded. There's a playroom down the hall. I'll stay with her. I want Daddy to come, Lila said immediately, her hand gripping Harry's. I'll be right here, baby girl. Right down the hall. You'll be able to see me through the window. Harry crouched down to her level. Caroline is going to watch cartoons with you, okay? And I promise nothing bad is going to happen. You're safe. Lila looked uncertain, but Caroline held out her hand with a gentle smile. How about we see if they have any coloring books? I could use some help making a really pretty picture. After a moment's hesitation, Lila took her hand. Harry watched them walk down the hallway toward the playroom, his daughter looking back twice to make sure he was still there. Tough kid, Hanley observed. She shouldn't have to be. They found an empty consultation room and closed the door. Harry pulled out his phone and opened the video files. Before I show you this, I need to explain something. My wife gave my daughter cleaning solution 4 days ago, told her it was juice. That's why we were here. That's why Lila nearly died. Hanley's expression darkened. Did Lila tell you this? Yes. And there's a history. Caroline can explain. Over the next 30 minutes, Caroline detailed everything she knew about Nina's time in Seattle. The foster children, the injuries, Emma's death. She provided dates, hospital names, case numbers she'd memorized 6 years ago in frustration and guilt. Hanley took notes, his jaw getting progressively tighter. Then Harry showed him the videos. All of them, starting with the footage from last night and working backward through the week. Nina's voice on the recordings was chilling in its flatness. Her actions were calculated, deliberate. When the last video finished, Hanley set the phone down carefully, as if afraid he might break it. Son of a bitch, he muttered. Then louder, sorry. But Jesus Christ. What can we do? Harry asked. What's the process here? First, I'm opening an official investigation. Second, we're going to need to bring Nina in for questioning. Hanley looked at Caroline. You willing to give an official statement about what you witnessed in Seattle? Absolutely. Good. That's multiple instances of child abuse across state lines. and if we can reopen Emma's case. He trailed off, then focused on Harry. I need to be straight with you. Women like Nina, they're manipulative. They know how to play the system. When we bring her in, she's going to flip this around. She'll claim you're controlling, paranoid, that you planted those cameras. She'll paint herself as the victim. I know. She's already laying groundwork for that, which means we need to be careful. We need to make sure every step we take is airtight, by the book. No mistakes. Hanley pulled out his own phone. I'm going to call my captain, get authorization to bring her in. Then we'll send officers to your house. She doesn't know I suspect anything. We left the house like it was a normal doctor's appointment. Good. Keep it that way. Don't call her. Don't text her. Let's handle this. The next 2 hours crawled by like molasses. Harry sat in the hallway outside the playroom, watching through the window as Lila colored with Caroline. His daughter was smiling, actually smiling, in a way he hadn't seen for days. It broke his heart and filled him with determination in equal measure. Hanley returned at noon. Officers are at your house now. Nina's been brought in for questioning. That fast. I called in favors. Captain Green's daughter is 3. When I told her what we had, he shook his head. Let's just say this case is getting priority treatment. They moved to a different room, one with a one-way mirror that looked into an interrogation room. On the other side of the glass, Nina sat at a metal table, looking completely composed. She wore the same jeans and sweater from this morning, her hair still in that neat ponytail. If she was worried, it didn't show. A female officer entered the room, Detective Walsh, according to her introduction. She laid out the standard Miranda rights. Nina waved them away. I don't need a lawyer. I haven't done anything wrong. Mrs. Crowell, we need to ask you about some incidents involving your daughter Lila. What incidents? She had an accident with cleaning supplies. Kids do that. Can you walk us through what happened that day? Nina's version was smooth, practiced. She'd been upstairs doing laundry. Heard Lila coughing downstairs. Came down to find her on the floor, choking. Was trying to figure out what to do when Harry came home and started screaming. He grabbed Lila and just ran out. Didn't even explain where he was going. I had to drive myself to the hospital. And you didn't call 911? I was going to, but Harry took her before I could. Detective Walsh made notes. Mrs. Crowell, we've spoken with the hospital staff. Nurse Caroline Hart recognized you. For the first time, something flickered across Nina's face. Just a flash, gone in an instant. Should I know her? She worked at Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. She remembers you bringing in several foster children with injuries. I was a foster parent. Kids in the system come from rough backgrounds. They're often hurt before they come to you. She also remembers a child named Emma who died in your care. Nina's expression went carefully blank. That was tragic. Emma had severe behavioral issues. She got into chemicals before I could stop her. The investigation cleared me completely. I'm aware, but it's interesting. Emma's injuries match the pattern we're seeing with Lila. I don't know what pattern you're talking about. My daughter had an accident. I'm sorry if some nurse has it out for me, but that's not evidence of anything. Detective Walsh pulled out a tablet and set on the table. Mrs. Crowell, we have video footage from cameras installed in your home. I'm going to show you something, and I want your explanation. She played the video from last night. The one showing Nina covering Lila's mouth, holding it there while the child struggled. The audio was crystal clear. Every word Nina had said, every sound Lila had made. Nina watched without expression. When it ended, she leaned back in her chair. That was taken without my knowledge or consent. My husband is paranoid. He's been unstable since leaving the military, PTSD, I think, though he refuses treatment. He's become increasingly controlling, monitoring everything I do, questioning my parenting. I was trying to calm Lila down. She has night terrors and sometimes needs firm guidance to snap out of them. You covered a 3-year-old child's mouth for 37 seconds. She was screaming. I was trying to help her regulate her breathing. That's not what the video shows, Mrs. Crowell. What it shows is child abuse. Nina's eyes went cold. That same emptiness Harry had seen in the ER. I want a lawyer. Detective Walsh nodded and stood. That's your right. But I want you to know something. We're contacting Seattle PD about Emma's case. We're pulling medical records for every foster child in your care. And we're going to protect that little girl in there from you. My daughter is fine. Her father is the problem, not me. We'll let the evidence decide that. After Walsh left the interrogation room, Hanley turned to Harry. She's good. I'll give her that. But we've got her. What happens now? We're holding her for 72 hours while we investigate. The video gives us probable cause for child endangerment. The Seattle connection gives us grounds to dig deeper. And with Caroline's testimony, Hanley shook his head. It's going to take time, but we're building a case. And Lila? Can I take her home? Home isn't safe right now. Do you have family nearby? Somewhere you can stay? Harry thought for a moment. My sister lives in Portland, about 3 hours north. That works. Pack what you need. Go stay with her for a few days. We'll keep you updated on the investigation. They returned to the playroom where Lila was showing Caroline a picture she'd drawn. A house with a little girl and a man standing in front of it. Yellow sun overhead. Look, Daddy. It's our house, but happy. Harry knelt beside her, looking at the drawing. No woman in the picture. Just the two of them. It's beautiful, sweetheart. How about we take a little trip? Go visit Aunt Jennifer. Lila's face lit up. Can we see her dogs? Absolutely. All three of them. In the hallway, Caroline pulled Harry aside. You did the right thing. The hard thing, but the right thing. I should have seen it sooner. Should have noticed. Don't do that to yourself. She's a professional manipulator. She's been doing this for years. Caroline squeezed his arm. That little girl in there is alive because of you. Remember that. Harry drove home in the early afternoon, Lila chattering excitedly in the back seat about seeing the dogs. The house was empty when they arrived. Nina was still at the police station. Crime scene tape stretched across the living room, marking where they'd collected evidence. Harry avoided looking at it. He packed quickly. Clothes for both of them, Lila's favorite stuffed rabbit, the USB drive with video backups. He grabbed his laptop, important documents, everything they'd need for an extended stay. The whole time, he kept looking over his shoulder, half expecting Nina to appear in the doorway with that cold smile. But she didn't. The house remained empty and quiet. Before leaving, Harry walked through each room one last time. The kitchen where Nina had made breakfast this morning, humming like everything was normal. The living room where he'd found Lila dying. Their bedroom with the perfectly made bed. This had been home. Now it was just a crime scene. He locked the door behind them and drove north. Jennifer lived in a suburb of Portland, a nice neighborhood with tree-lined streets and kids playing basketball in driveways. She met them at the door with a fierce hug that lasted a long time. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Stay as long as you need. Her 3 dogs, golden retrievers who were basically large puppies, swarmed Lila with enthusiasm. The little girl squealed with delight, the sound bright and pure and absolutely nothing like the terrified, gasping Harry had heard days ago. That night, after Lila fell asleep in the guest room with one dog curled up beside her, Harry and Jennifer sat in the kitchen. He told her everything, the whole story start to finish. She listened without interrupting, tears streaming down her face. I never liked her, Jennifer said when he finished. Nina, I mean, there was always something off. Too perfect, too controlled. But I thought I was just being protective of you. You were right. What happens now? We wait. The police investigate. They build a case. Harry stared at his coffee mug, the liquid inside gone cold. And I make sure Lila never has to see her again. 3 days passed. Then 4. Detective Hanley called with updates. They'd reopened Emma's case in Seattle, were interviewing the other foster children from Nina's care, several of whom were now teenagers willing to talk. The hospital in Seattle had kept detailed records that investigators were reviewing. The evidence was piling up. On the 5th day, Hanley called with news that changed everything. We got the toxicology results back from Emma's case, he said, his voice tight with restrained anger. The chemical that killed her, it matches the cleaning solution your daughter ingested. Exactly. Same brand, same concentration, same chemical signature. Harry's hand tightened on the phone. What does that mean? It means she's been using the same method for years. It means we have a pattern, a signature, undeniable evidence of intent. Seattle PD is charging her with homicide. We're adding multiple counts of child endangerment and attempted homicide here. She's going to prison. She's never getting out. Not if I have anything to say about it. 2 weeks later, Harry and Lila sat in Jennifer's backyard, watching the dogs play. Lila's voice had almost fully recovered, though she still sometimes woke at night crying. But each day got a little better. Each day, she smiled a little more. Harry's phone buzzed. A text from Hanley. It's done. She took a plea. 25 to life, no parole eligibility. Seattle charges will run concurrent. She'll die in prison. Harry read it twice, then looked at his daughter. She was laughing at something one of the dogs had done, her face tilted up toward the sun. Daddy, look. Max caught the ball. I see, baby girl. Good catch, Max. He deleted the text and put the phone away. Nina was gone from their lives now, locked away where she could never hurt another child. That chapter was closed. That night, after putting Lila to bed, Harry sat down with Jennifer. I've been thinking, he said, maybe we stay in Portland. Fresh start. New city where nobody knows what happened. I'd love that. Lila could go to school near here. You could find work. The dogs certainly love having her around. Yeah. Harry smiled, the first real smile he'd managed in weeks. Yeah, I think that's the right call. He went upstairs and checked on Lila one more time. She was asleep, peaceful, one small hand clutching her stuffed rabbit. The dog, Max, was still on the bed, acting as a self-appointed guardian. Harry knelt beside the bed and brushed hair from his daughter's forehead. You'll never be scared again, he whispered. I promise. He walked downstairs, pulled out the last photo of Nina from his wallet, their wedding picture, and tore in half. Then in half again, then into tiny pieces that he dropped in the kitchen trash. She'd said Lila just tripped, but Nina was the one who'd fallen, and she was never getting back up again.